Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens Podcast presented by Jotnick's Paranormal. I am Jamie Widener, your host for the evening, along with Mr. Chad Thomas, as always.
Good evening.
Chad, how you doing, sir?
I'm tired. I'll be honest, I'm tired.
Well, yeah, I know why. So
We won't go into it.
details, but you've had a full day. Uh, and it's theater season, right? So there's that as well, and there's kids in productions. You're yourself isn't you're part of the production crew now.
hmm
Here at our local Penn Manor School District presentation. Um, so yeah, when do you sleep? By the way, I'm not sure.
I get an hour like here and there.
Okay.
I don't know. And we had a booster meeting tonight, which that's important for getting the parents supporting
Yeah.
the. But yeah, I don't know when I sleep.
It doesn't seem like you do, dude. You got it though.
Well, if you catch me nodding off, just like throw something at me.
All right. Well, it's my show tonight, so I'll take it from here and nudge you when it's time to talk. So
All right.
it's good to see Bert's here.
Yeah.
Good evening to you as well. Yeah, we are making a habit of this. It's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. I hope not anyway. So yeah, it's interesting because I'm in the same boat. Like, I was, I hate to admit this, I was up way too late last night trying to finish this episode because, oh crap, I forgot. I had my favorite quote from Thomas Jefferson on July 23rd or July 3rd, 1776 is, oh crap, it's due tomorrow. Right. I
Right.
fumbled my own joke. That's how tired I am. Jeez. But it's one of those things where we have that gear when we need it,
Uh-huh.
but at this age, we hope we don't have to use it much.
Right.
Right. Uh, you can always be as good as you once were, one time, maybe two,
Right.
not on the reg though. I used to be up till 2 or 3, get up at 7, 6:30, something like that, roll through the day, come back, do it again. Self-inflicted wounds, usually something, socializing, video gaming, all kinds of stupid stuff.
All the
And
fun.
then roll over again, do it again.
Right. It's hard to do that anymore. It's I don't want to say it's bad enough when we're in an investigation, but the next day is tough.
Yeah, it can be. It certainly can be. I don't plan things in the morning, that's for sure. I have a monthly. Usually, I have a monthly get together with my siblings for breakfast on a Sunday morning, and I always know when not to do it.
Right.
Because like 9 a.m. on a Sunday. Well, it's not me if you're a church goer or something like that. Certainly, it's not early, but for those who do enjoy sleeping in a little bit on the weekends, that's the only day I get to, and
hmm
no, I'm falling asleep in my eggs.
Yeah, and when we have to take a kid to work at 8 o'clock on a
At 8 a.m. Yep,
afternoon
that Sunday shift. Oh yeah.
So,
They need to get their license so fast.
so
No,
but anyway,
no pressure. No pressure. Get it. Go get it. Anyway, yeah. Anything going on paranormal this weekend? Did you do anything?
I actually did go over to Selma Mansion.
Oh, cool.
And they were having their psychic fair.
Right.
I went over and saw my friend Sabrina, who does I believe it's called IRT healings. It's a branch of Reiki, like not a branch, but something along the same lines as Reiki.
Okay.
So it's an energy healing, and Sabrina is one of the best ones out there, from what I understand. And I felt very refreshed after that, and then
Good.
had the paranormal hangover the next day and was exhausted. And I reached out and she's like, "Yeah, drink plenty of water. Yeah, you're gonna feel that way." So
No, that's what we tell our guests at our events, right? I mean, everybody. I think people think I'm joking with them.
mhm,
It's the whole up and up late, and we're consuming things we're not used to, caffeine, things like that. The dehydrants that they are, and
yeah,
we don't take time to drink enough water anyway. Most of us don't. So
yeah,
you wake up in the morning, and this goes back to the younger years again. At least then you earned it because you're out socializing or something. But you just walk around the dark talking to yourself how you feel like this.
yeah. I mean, and I wasn't even investigating, but I had to wait for her to finish up her session that was before me, and
Ah,
she was running about a half hour behind. So I was hanging out on the third floor of that house,
yep.
and there's some interesting energy up there,
Well,
and I felt like it sucked it out of me. So
I understand.
yep. So Good evening to Stefan. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, good evening.
So, but that's the only paranormal thing I had. So,
Yeah, nothing. We obviously got something coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that later. But it's been a bit of a dry patch here, so I'm so looking forward to getting back and digging in.
mm-hmm.
I did move my equipment around, so I technically touched stuff because it was over there and I put it where it belongs.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's as close as I got. The bag is still closed. The great charge up activity happens
Mm-hmm.
starting tomorrow and Thursday, I guess, the latest. So we'll get it
I,
ready.
I actually I did do something else. You remember about a month or so ago we did a residential, and I went through some more of the recordings of that and had some weird stuff. Okay, I'm not going to go into it, but we had some weird stuff.
Okay.
Sent it to Kirsten, and Kirsten was like, "Huh?" So,
Well, if you need an objective, non-engaged partner or participant in that, send it my way as well. I'll be happy to listen since I wasn't there and I'm
yeah,
outside of it.
yeah.
That
So,
might be able to help.
okay.
Sometimes that other objective ear, our eyes,
Right.
we do this stuff all the time, like evidence wise. Hey, what's this? What do you think? So we share that stuff around, but
Yeah.
happy to help if I can.
Sure. So,
All
anyway.
right.
Oh,
Oh, well, there's an interesting comment from Stefan. My mother had many stories about living above the funeral home in Millersville. Well, you piqued our interest, sir.
so very cool. So, but I believe you're going to tell us some stories about a very interesting place as well.
Yeah, I am. So this is a little different tonight. We normally talk about like locations and physical places. Well, this is a physical place and it is a location technically, but we think more about structures,
Mhm.
and or things we've built and that have become active around the personas of who were invested in the place. Tonight we're going to talk about something uniquely different, which is Mount Shasta, and Mount Shasta is, where are we in the world? It's where we always start at. We're in the United States, of course, but we're in Northern California, and we are about as close to nowhere as you can be. There's really nothing out there.
Okay.
And even today, with all of our buildup and, the population growth and density, the Northern California, Southern Oregon still is one of those wild places that is, there's people, don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but it is not built up the way we would expect. Our metropolises and even the closest major city in the area is Sacramento, and that's like 3 hours south. So, it's still out there, which
Uh-huh.
is cool.
Good.
So, as an introduction, and I'm going to talk a little bit about like some of the geography here and the geophysics of it all first. So, because I think we have to understand the structure that it is, and then we'll get into some of the interesting stuff that we're here for as we turn our paranormal lens toward Mount Shasta.
Okay.
So, rising above the landscape of Northern California is one of the most iconic and mystically regarded mountains in the contiguous United States. At 14,179 feet, it serves not only as a striking physical landmark, but also as a locus of human stories, indigenous mythologies, and scientific inquiry, and also modern legend. While the mountain is often associated with spiritual lore, UFOs, Lemurian underground cities, and the paranormal claims, its deeper and more verifiable story lies in its geological formation, eruptive life, and the centuries of human interaction with it. In this episode, we will explore the geophysical history of Mount Shasta, its formation, volcanic structure, and recent behavior, and then trace its human history, including indigenous significance, early European discovery, the exploration of it, and modern scientific and cultural engagement. And of course, paranormal.
Cool. Got to
It's what
have
we
that.
do. It's what we do. All right. So, geophysical history. I'm going to put people to sleep. Bear with me, though. We'll get through it. Mount Shasta is part of the Cascade Range of volcanoes, which extends from British Columbia through Washington and Oregon and into Northern California. The Cascade volcanism is a product of the subduction of the Juan de Fuca and underlying Gorda Explorer plates beneath the Northern American plate. Melt generation in the subduction zone gives rise to magma that feeds this chain of stratovolcanoes. Within this setting, Shasta is classified as a compound stratovolcano or composite volcano. Rather than being a single cone, it is built from multiple overlapping cones, vents, and eruptive centers. The U.S. Geological Survey describes that Mount Shasta was constructed through 4 major cone building episodes, each associated with distinct vents and interspersed with dome growth, pyroclastic flows, and flank lava flows. The geographic record indicates the following broad phrases. First is early cone construction. The earliest cones, now largely eroded or buried, contributed foundational structure with andesite lava flows, mixed block and ash flows, and mud flows. Over time, dome growth and pyroclastic flows modified the shape. The middle phases and the Red Banks event. It's the second one. One of the more dynamic episodes is the so-called Red Banks eruptions around 11,000 years ago, after which the Shastina cone was built rapidly. And rapidly means approximately 300-year window. Shastina is a secondary cone 3 kilometers west of the present summit and is among the larger larger Holocene volcanic constructs in the Cascades. Alongside Shastina, the Black Butte dome complex was active, forming a cluster of overlapping dacite domes around 13 kilometers west of the Shasta proper. The third is the Holocene activity in flank vents. In the last 10,000 years, which is the Holocene epoch, Shasta continued to evolve. The principal cones of Hultum and Shastina saw activity, as did flank vents. The Black Butte domes yielded pyroclastic flows that traveled tens of kilometers. The fourth, avalanches and sector collapse. One of the more dramatic events in Shasta's geophysical history is a massive debris avalanche whose origin and mobility remain partially enigmatic. It traveled many kilometers, carrying large coherent blocks up to 20 kilometers in some cases, and incorporated saturated material from the valley floors. Interestingly, there is no clear evidence that it was triggered by an eruption. Instead, it may relate to hydrothermal altercations and structural weakening of the volcanic rocks. Together, these episodes have sculpted Mount Shasta into the complex structure seen today. A central core of overlapping cones, subsidiary domes, and a network of vents that distributed lava and pyroclastic deposits across wide sectors. That's a lot of hot stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Jamie, I just want to point out that you've taken something that's completely in English and probably picked the hardest words that are in the language.
Yeah, I'm not done yet. There's more. Well, all this stuff is around heat, right?
Right.
So guess what? They're glaciers.
What?
What? Yeah. So, given the perception of the perfect California climate, you may be surprised to know that Mount Shasta currently supports 5 glaciers. There's Bolam, Holtlum, Conwauketon, Whitney, and Winton. A fun fact, the Whitney Glacier is the largest in California at 3.5 miles long, and it's approximately 600 feet thick. Not small.
No.
Not small. The Holtum and Winton glaciers have, in the period of 1951 to 2002, nearly doubled in size, while other glaciers expanded by smaller but still significant proportions. So, that's fascinating.
I find that really interesting because glaciers in other parts of the world are reducing in size, and
Yes.
these are increasing in size. So
It has more to do with the elevation
yeah.
and also the general climate zone than it does anything there. Yeah, it's cold up there.
Yeah.
It's holding on to it. So, although its last confirmed major eruptive episode dates back to the Holocene, Mount Shasta is not considered extinct. The last major eruption is uncertain, but some sources indicate an eruption as recently as the late 18th century, somewhere around maybe 1786, or a steam flumeric event in 1855. In the German language summary, for instance, Shasta is said to have erupted at least 13 times in the Holocene, 8 times in the last 4,500 years, and 3 times in the last 750 years. That's recent when you deal with geography or geology.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given these patterns, scientists treat Shasta as a potentially active volcano and monitor it using a network of seismographs, gas sensors, deformation measurements, and geological mappings. The possibility of lahars, which are volcanic mud flows, pyroclastic flows, eruption of domes or lava flows, and debris collapses remain key hazards, especially given the mountain's steep slopes and glacial load. So let's talk a little bit about people, right? A lot about geography, but there's been people along the way. Long before European exploration, Mount Shasta was central to the spiritual worldview of several Native American tribes, including the Shasta, the Achumawi, Modoc, Atsugiwi, and the Menememwitu. In many origin stories, the mountain is regarded as sacred, the site where spirits reside or the birthplace of tribes. For example, the Shasta people have narratives involving grizzly bear people and the great spirit of the mountain. The slopes above the tree line were considered taboo to most except shamans or departed spirits. The Minimemwintu conducted coming-of-age ceremonies, river rituals, and acts of reverence tied to the mountain's waters and spiritual presence. Some indigenous cosmologies around Shasta incorporate dualistic spirit battles. For example, the Klamath people spoke of a conflict between Skel, what's the spirit of above world, and Lao, the spirit of below world, with volcanic action, it's like rocks and lava, explained as manifestations of these battles. Such mythic narratives deeply embed the mountain in cultural identity and the sacred geography of the region. The first recorded European description of Mount Shasta occurred on May 20th in 1817 by the Spanish missionary and explorer Narcisco Duran, who referred to it as a high, snow-covered hill. And if that's a hill, I don't know what a mountain looks like for him. Right? 14,000 feet is pretty big. In 1826, Peter Skeen Ogden of the Hudson's Bay Company cited it, and maps from 1839 labeled it as Rogers Peak. Because if you find it, you get to name it, right?
Right.
So apparently Mr. Rogers found it. Over time, the name Shasta became standardized, though variant spellings existed, such as Sasti, Shasti, Chasta, etc. In 1850, the California legislature officially adopted Shasta for both the mountain and Shasta County surrounding it. During the 19th century, Mount Shasta was a landmark of the Siskiyou Trail, which followed indigenous trade paths connecting California's Central Valley with the Pacific Northwest. And of course, if you find something this big, what are you going to do, Chad? You're going to climb it.
Why not?
Right? Challenge accepted. The first recorded ascent occurred in 1854, led by Elias Pierce. In 1855, James Hutchins published an account of a summit attempt in Scenes of Wonder and Curiosity in California, capturing the public imagination. During the 1860s and 1870s, explorers and naturalists such as John Muir, Clarence King, Josiah Whitney, and John Wesley Powell interacted with Shasta, climbing, surveying, and writing about it. The mountain appeared in poetry and local lore, helping cement its status as a subject of both scientific and romantic fascination. Moving ahead a little bit. Over the 20th and 21st centuries, Mount Shasta evolved into a hub for diverse cultural currents, scientific, spiritual, and mythic, and in 1976 it was declared a national natural landmark. Parallel to formal scientific study, the mountain has also become entangled in modern mythology. In the early 20th century, the notion of a hidden underground city called Telos, inhabited by Lemurians, survivors of a lost continent, gained traction. We'll talk about more on this in a bit. The city is purported to lie in tunnels beneath Shasta, and legends claim that Lemurians occasionally surface.
Mm-hmm.
In 1931, Harvey Spencer Lewis, under the pseudonym Wishar S. Survey, published Lemuria, the Lost Continent of the Pacific, which popularized the association of Lemurian myth and Mount Shasta. In 1934, a geologist named J.C. Brown claimed he discovered an 11-mile tunnel inside Shasta replete with gold, giant skeletons, and relics. He organized an expedition with dozens of participants, but vanished before the trip took off, fueling speculation and mystery that still persists to this day. In recent times, visitors have photographed UFO-like shapes above the summit, though many such sightings may be explained by lenticular clouds, which are common around Shasta due to its steep profile and orographic lift. Meanwhile, the city of Mount Shasta has grown as a small spiritual tourism hub. Bookstores and alternative healing shops proliferate. Metaphysical retreats, vision quests, and pilgrimage draw visitors to see Shasta as the center of the mystical energy. At the same time, scientific efforts continue, with geologists, volcanologists, and monitoring agencies studying the mountain's behavior and hazards. So, with all of this, there is an interplay of science and myth. So, Mount Shasta represents an intriguing intersection between rigorous geophysical knowledge and the realm of myth and vision. The mountain's dramatic shape, its capacity to generate lenticular clouds, and its imposing presence invite wonder and often lead observers toward the supernatural. From a scientific standpoint, the layered cones, domes, and debris avalanches, glacier dynamics, and volcanic gas emissions all tell a narrative of a dynamic but gradually waning volcanic system. Continuous monitoring is essential because the geological records warn that Shasta's activity can shift and hazards remain real. In this respect, Shasta joins the company of active cascade volcanoes like Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, and Mount Rainier. The myths, among them Lemurian cities, tunnels, UFOs, the Ascended Masters, while not scientifically supported, shape the cultural landscape around Shasta. Indeed, local media, spiritual tourism, and even occasional physical diggings underscore how people actively seek the boundary between belief, demonstrable fact. The challenge for modern interpretive work is to respect and acknowledge the deep cultural and spiritual significance of the mountain to indigenous and contemporary communities, while maintaining scientific clarity about what is known and what remains speculative. So, speaking of speculative, let's talk about some paranormal stuff, right?
Of course.
That's buddy. So this is where it gets interesting. Although all of that was interesting, right?
Yeah. So wait, I want to go with the European, the first European, that was Duran.
Yeah, back in 1812.
Is he related to the Phillies reliever?
He might be like a distant cousin.
Yeah. Okay. I want to I picked up on that.
Yeah. Well, it's like saying all Thomases are related, right?
True.
You're heir to the English muffin franchise, right?
You just figured that out?
I just figured that out. Yeah, it just clicked.
So, anyway, no,
why there isn't a pack in my house right now is a good question.
So, no, actually, there is a lot of interesting stuff there, but I'm looking forward to the paranormal. So.
Sure. Well, let's get through that, and then we'll circle back to all of this. So, all right. So, one of the most persistent and distinctive legends linked to Mount Shasta is the story of Telos, which is an underground city inhabited by descendants of a mythical lost continent of Lemuria. The Lemuria narrative emerged from the 19th and early 20th century esoteric movements and was grafted onto the Shasta landscape by occultists and New Age writers. Telos is often described as a vast, crystalline, subterranean metropolis whose inhabitants, the Lemurians, are spiritually advanced and sometimes intervene benevolently with surface dwellers. These stories gained traction through books, lectures, and local storytellers, and were further amplified by those seeking mystical experiences in the region. The idea of an advanced, hidden civilization explains much of the mountain's mythic aura. Telos gives a concrete, if not fantastical, anchor to otherwise desperate reports of strange lights, wise elders, and supernatural encounters. The Telos tale functions like other Lost World legends. It mixes a desire for continuity, a people who survive cataclysm, with the romanticism of secret knowledge. Over time, local entrepreneurs, authors, and spiritual teachers reiterated versions of the story, moving it from fringe pamphlet culture to local tours, gift shop paraphernalia, and a thriving New Age visitor economy. There's also UFO sightings, but then there's also lenticular clouds that will separate. So, Mount Shasta's topography makes it prone to spectacular lenticular clouds. These are smooth, lens-shaped cloud formations produced when stable, moist air flows over the mountain and creates standing waves. To the uninitiated, stacked lenticular clouds can look like saucers or domes floating above the peak, an easy match for UFO narratives. There are quite a few of these in the slide presentation as examples. Local photographers and visitors have taken countless images of such clouds. Some are shown in slide deck, and those images often circulate online and on social media as evidence, finger quotes, of extraterrestrial visitation. Scientifically, however, lenticulars are a meteorological phenomenon entirely explainable by orographic lift and atmospheric wave dynamics. A lot of words there, too.
Yeah.
Their frequency around Shasta helps account for many claimed sightings. Beyond clouds, there are numerous anecdotal UFO accounts. Lights darting in the sky, craft allegedly hovering near ridge lines, and reports of silent craft moving against prevailing winds. Those reports tend to be episodic and unfortunately poorly documented. Eyewitness testimony, sometimes a single photo, and very little corroborating instrumentation. When UFO lore takes root in a place culturally primed to experience or expect the extraordinary, mundane aerial phenomena like drones, satellites, aircraft, or even the lenticular clouds, and a psychological expectation can produce persistent, mutually reinforcing narratives that spread rapidly through tourism networks and online communities. I'll let you decide which were which.
Okay.
Now, there are strange openings in the mountain. So over the last few decades, a series of physical anomalies, real and alleged, have intensified local mystery narratives. One widely publicized case, known as the 60-foot hole, involves a large, mysterious opening that appeared on the mountain's flank and prompted amateur investigators, local believers, and journalists to propose everything from sinkholes and illegal excavations to portals into hidden cities. Such conspicuous physical features act as powerful attractors for conspiracy and myth. A hole becomes an entryway into the imagination, a place where telos might connect to the surface. Investigations by local media and public radio have documented how each proposed explanation for the hole, whether it be natural erosion, clandestine digging, or fraud, tells as much about community anxieties and desires as it does about geology. The hole represents an episode showcased that is the dynamic between believers eager for proof and journalists or officials seeking evidence and accountability. Historical tall tales about tunnels and discoveries, like supposed expeditions that return with accounts of hidden chambers, treasure, or even giant skeletons, feed modern reinterpretations. They just keep going. These often older stories are fragmentary or based on hearsay. As they are retold, details grow and morph into more elaborate or expansive narratives. This method of elaboration demonstrates how physical features like a cave entrance or a cracked shaft or even a fresh excavation can catalyze extraordinary claims. It's a bit like folklore, right, Jen?
Yeah.
All right. So we are episode 122 tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, making his Paranormal Lens debut, Bigfoot. Finally. So, long before modern cryptid hunters scoured the forest for evidence, the indigenous tribes of Northern California, including the Wintu, Modoc, and Shasta peoples, spoke of towering, hairy beings inhabiting the slopes of Mount Shasta. These giant spirit men, or mountain protectors, were said to dwell deep in the forests and caves, emerging only when the balance of nature was disturbed. Far from monsters, they were revered as guardians of sacred land, an interpretation that would later merge with the broader North American Bigfoot mythology. In many of these early accounts, the beings possessed both physical and spiritual characteristics. They could move silently through the trees, appear and vanish without a trace, and were often associated with omens of change or protection. Oral traditions passed down through generations helped solidify Mount Shasta's reputation as a threshold between the natural and the supernatural worlds, where powerful entities coexist with humankind in uneasy harmony. The legend of Bigfoot in Mount Shasta region took new life in the 20th century. As reports of Sasquatch encounters swept across the Pacific Northwest, Mount Shasta emerged as one of the most active hotspots for alleged sightings. A few of them include 1976, the Panther Meadow encounter. A group of hikers near Panther Meadow reported seeing a massive, upright creature crossing a clearing at dusk. They described it as covered in dark brown fur and at least 8 feet tall. The following morning, 16-inch footprints were discovered embedded in the soft soil. Another in 1993 was called the Castle Lake Incident. Two campers claim to have been awakened by heavy bipedal footsteps encircling their tent. The encounter included deep guttural vocalizations, sounds that experts later compared to those captured in the Sierra Sounds recordings, long considered to be the most famous pieces of Bigfoot audio evidence ever recorded. And in some recent reports, organizations such as the Northwest Bigfoot and the Active NorCal have categorized multiple modern accounts of unexplained howls, heat signatures on thermal imaging, and large humanoid silhouettes captured on trail cameras. While none have been verified consecutively or conclusively, they maintain Mount Shasta's position as a consistent cryptid activity zone. I'm going to tie back to the Lemurians here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Mount Shasta's unique blend of geology and mysticism have given rise to theories that extend beyond the physical. Among the mountain's New Age communities and paranormal researchers, a prominent belief holds that Bigfoot is not simply a biological creature, but an interdimensional being capable of phasing in and out of visibility. This theory intersects with the Lemurian mythos, the belief that an ancient civilization, Lemuria, once existed and that its enlightened descendants now inhabit crystalline underground cities beneath Mount Shasta. Within this framework, Bigfoot is sometimes portrayed as a guardian species, protecting the Lemurians' entrances and serving as intermediaries between their hidden realm and the human world. Reports of Bigfoot-like beings, vanishing into beams of light or mist have further fueled this narrative, reinforcing the idea that the creatures are spiritual protectors rather than animals. Publications such as Connect Paranormal and Mount Shasta Myths suggest that these beings embody the mountain's role as a gateway between dimensions, part myth, part metaphysical manifestation. So, a little skepticism to that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Mainstream researchers and wildlife experts offer natural explanations for most sightings. And of course they do, right? That's what they have to do. The dense forests, shifting shadows, and abundance of black bears can easily create illusions of large humanoid forms. Bears standing upright, particularly in poor lighting, may be mistaken for something more mysterious. Furthermore, physical evidence, hair samples, tracks, or scat have never conclusively proven Bigfoot's existence, and not just at Shasta, but anywhere. DNA tests of purported samples often return results linking them to known species such as bear or elk. Geologists also note that Mount Shasta's volcanic soils and seasonal snowmelt can distort footprints, leading to misinterpretations of size and shape. Despite these rational explanations, the cultural persistence of the legend suggests it's something deeper than a misidentification. Mount Shasta's Bigfoot is as much a symbolic construct as a biological hypothesis, a reflection of humanity's desire to locate mystery within wilderness. And whether viewed as a cryptid, a spiritual guardian, or a manifestation of the unknown, Bigfoot has become an inseparable part of Mount Shasta's identity. Festivals, local businesses, and guided cryptid walks celebrate the legend, drawing visitors from across the globe. In nearby towns, murals and sculptures depict the creature not as a menace, but as a protector of the mountain, embodying the environmental balance and the frontier spirit. Mm-hmm. The continued fascination with Bigfoot highlights how folklore evolves alongside science, merging ancestral memory with modern mystery. Changing gears to some of this more ghostly things. Shasta's human history, indigenous sacred stories, pioneer tragedies, and modern tourism also generates claims of ghosts and hauntings. One such tale is the so-called ghost choir, or ethereal singing reported by some visitors near certain trails or glens. These claims are typically described in emotionally rich terms, low throat singing, disembodied harmonies, or vocalizations heard at dusk, yet they are anecdotal and rarely subject to rigorous acoustic analysis. Natural explanations can include wind through fir trees, animal vocalizations, or psychoacoustic phenomenon, when someone is expecting to hear something and therefore they do.
Right.
The evocative power of a ghost choir, especially in a place already saturated with spiritual expectation, shows how auditory experiences combine with cultural framing to create lasting myths. Stories of spectral hikers, morning apparitions, and haunted campsites circulate in tour guide narratives and on social media. The social function of these tales is important. They provide a sense of connection to place, a moral or emotional texture to the landscape, and compelling context for guides and storytellers who invite visitors to experience the mountain's mystique. Here are a few of those tales. First is the Phantom Campfire. Hikers and campers report seeing a campfire flickering in the distance, often at dusk or night. When they approach, expecting people or signs of use, the fire is gone, and no trace remains on the ground. No logs, no ashes, no disturbed soil. Second is the specter of Avalanche Gulch. Climbers on the Avalanche Gulch route say they feel they are being followed. They hear footsteps in snow marching their own. But when they look back or pause, there is no one there. Sometimes voices are breathing or sounds of snow shifting, but no visible presence. Chad, this might sound a little bit like our season 2 episode 12 episode on the third man syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. And the next, ghost trees on Black Butte. Trees high on Black Butte, especially when mist or cloud drift around them, are said to take on ghostly forms. Visitors say the patterns of clouds and dim lighting make the trees seem like silent sentinels, shapes, or figures amongst the limbs, almost like apparitions. And last, sightings of spirits on these, which are ascended masters or beings in the sacred meadows. In Panther Meadow and nearby areas, some people report seeing luminous beings, sometimes called ascended masters, unusual spiritual presences, or feeling that the area is especially potent with unseen energies. These are often described during night hikes, full moon periods, etc. When these excuse me, or the period, etc. I'm going to start that sentence all over again. These are often described during night hikes, full moon periods, and etc. And going back again to a callback to earlier episodes, these last two sound a lot like season 1, episode 57 with the Dark Watchers, also an elevated mountain in central California. So why Mount Shasta? A mountain like Shasta offers 3 ingredients crucial to enduring paranormal reputation. It has striking visual theater, a dominating cone, seasonal snowfalls, dramatic clouds that all provoke awe. It has isolation and scale, which makes rare occurrences seem more portentous and allow anecdotes to remain unverified for long periods. It has cultural priming, long-standing indigenous sacredness, 19th century explorers' romanticism, and 20th century New Age apparition combined to produce a fertile mythscape of the mountain. When these factors combine with modern communication like social media, local tourism marketing, and online forums, the mountain becomes not only a place, but a story generator. People increasingly seek experiences, not just facts, and Shasta provides the sensory and cultural scaffolding for such experiences. Scholarly and journalistic investigations have repeatedly stressed that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. In Mount Shasta's cases, evidence is thin. One-off eyewitness reports, low-resolution photographs, or photographs of natural phenomena misread the supernatural. Investigative journalists and broadcasters have documented instances of fraud, hoaxing, and the human tendency to fill gaps in knowledge with imaginative explanation. Even still, Mount Shasta will likely remain the focus of extraordinary claims for years to come. Its legends, Lemurian cities, UFOs, ghost choirs, Bigfoot, etc., perform important cultural work. They provide meaning, market experiences, and connect people to landscape. Yet the most responsible approach, whether one is a scientist, journalist, guide, or pilgrim, is to distinguish between categories of knowledge, empirical claims that are testable and therefore verifiable evidence, and spiritual or symbolic claims that function at the level of personal or communal meaning. Much of Shasta's contemporary mythos sits in the latter category. That does not make it unimportant, but it does mean claims about subterranean cities or extraterrestrial bases need extraordinary proof to move into the realm of scientific fact. For readers for readers enchanted by the mountain, a clear invitation remains: visit respectfully, document carefully, and enjoy the stories, while also learning some basic meteorology, geology, and critical source evaluation. The real magic of Mount Shasta may be how it continuously inspires people to examine larger worlds above, within, and beyond the snow line, while also reminding us how powerful landscape culture and belief are at shaping what we take on to be real. So, let me cite some sources and we'll discuss.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of sources on this one. Bear with me. So, first is iflscience.com. What are the mysteries of Mount Shasta? AdventureTreks.com. 10 things you didn't know about Mount Shasta. MountShastaMuseum.com. The lenticular clouds of Mount Shasta. OnlyInYourState.com. This Northern California mountain is one of the most beautiful in the U.S. UnusualPlaces.com. Mount Shasta. AtlasObscura.com. The spirituality and legends of Mount Shasta. PerfectDuluthDay.com. The Lost Coast and the Ghost Choir of Mount Shasta. KQED.com. Faith and Fraud in Mount Shasta. vcorner.com. Mount Shasta, the most paranormal place on earth. ConnectParanormal.com. Mount Shasta's mysteries, exploring otherworldly legends and paranormal claims. Wilderlandmedia.com. UFOs, Bigfoot, and other mysteries. Mount Shasta's magical atmosphere. MountShastaMagic.com. Explore the haunted history of Mount Shasta on a spooky walk. TheTravel.com. A paranormal guide to Mount Shasta. AncientCode.com. The mysteries and legends of Mount Shasta. YourTango.com. Mount Shasta Mysteries, what makes it so mysterious. MountShastaMyths.com. 10 mysteries of Mount Shasta you need to know. ActiveNorCal.com. Strange paranormal encounters in Mount Shasta. And also, what's a Lemurian and why do people believe they live in Mount Shasta? Think Big, ThinkBig.com. UFO sightings, why Mount Shasta is the new Roswell. MountShastaMyths.com. Bigfoot and Mount Shasta. And lastly, NorthwestBigfoot.com. Bigfoot on Mount Shasta. Woo!
Jamie, did you get every source on the internet there
I
was?
think I found them all. I'm pretty sure I did.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, sir, and you do this too. So we're out there looking for stuff when we're coming up with an episode, and sometimes it's thin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there's only a couple of options, and we build off of that and we
Right.
create. But there was so much. There is so much, and that's part of the amazingness of Shasta. I think in general is it's so well documented. There's so much going on there. It's its own industry
Right.
in so many ways, and uh, having it be connected to the mystical
Right.
and the new age esqueness of it, I think really does help it as well.
Right. Bert thinks here's a source that you missed.
Yeah, well, perhaps you're right.
Bert's looking at Encyclopedia Britannica, so which they have a great website now.
They do now. Yeah, they didn't then.
So, the first thing I want to say is if you're not watching this podcast with the visuals, just do a Google search of Mount Shasta
Yeah,
and look at do an image search of Mount Shasta. Look at some of these images. It's just a breathtaking
it's amazing. It
sight.
is. It's massive.
It's
You can
massive.
you
That
can see when you look at when you're looking at it, and obviously there's different angles here to make this work right.
correct. Yeah.
But when I talked earlier on about the different cones through its time, you can see the different peaks of it,
Hmm.
the variables of it, and 13 kilometers is not a short distance between Shastanista and the main cone now, and that's a wide space, and
Right.
in that's how big the mountain is.
Hmm.
Right? And it kind of stands by itself in a lot of ways. I go back to Tolkien. I think it's the Hobbit, well, the one before the Hobbit, when they're going out to the Lonely Mountain, and it's called that because it literally sits out by itself, and you see it from everywhere, and when you're on it, you can see everything. So
Right.
getting to the top of Shasta, which obviously people wanted to do because there it is, let's go climb it. The views they would have gotten from the summit would have been amazing.
If you
And
could see,
14,000 isn't overly high in the sense of scale. It's climbable without a lot of gear and equipment. Certainly back in the 1800s, they wouldn't have had anything we have today in modern climbing gear and technologies. And people went up.
right, that is if you can see through the clouds, because there's
Well, the
some of these
cloud life.
clouds I mean, that you you would never like going to visit this on a road trip. I'm going to be the first one to say. going to visit this on a road trip, you would have to spend months there to see some of the different, just the different lighting and the different clouds and the different, like,
Yeah.
no wonder it's such a revered place, because
So
you one day you're looking at it and it's got these clouds, and another day it's got a purple background, and it's just standing by itself in front of this, like, it just it it's it's otherworldly.
yeah. Well, take that and put seasons in it as well.
Hmm.
Obviously winter lingers in the Northwest, and in the elevations, winter lingers. And it'll be May perhaps, and there'll still be snow caps. Um, you know, so that's not unreasonable anyway. But and it may come sooner in the fall than we would expect here. And we're in South Central Pennsylvania lowlands. So we're not going to get a lot of snow. But in the elevations of the Rockies and the Cascades and so forth, snow comes in maybe even now. I have friends in Colorado who've had snowfall, the first week of October already. So
Right.
and then I laugh at them like, why do you want to live there?
Mm.
But it's beautiful as well. And when you're in, if you're a person of nature, and this is what you enjoy. There are two kinds of people in the world to me. There's beach people and mountain people. I'm a mountain person, so I'll
Right.
take the snow. I will take the cold that comes with it because I enjoy that atmosphere more so than I like sitting on the beach sizzling. And I'm fair skinned and don't do well in sun, so I'll walk in the woods. But that seasonal change is a big part of this as well.
Right.
And you mentioned, and even dawn to dusk, the sunrise sunset will be a variable. It'll just change the atmosphere of the mountain drastically as far as its visibility.
Right.
So, I'll tell you this too. Speaking of the mountains, I used to live in Albuquerque, and I drove up to the top of Mount Sandia, which is this is the southern end of the Rockies as well. I went up to the top of the mountain, and it's one of those switchbacks. You're trying to drive up the backside, but you're coming back and forth. As we were elevating, it was getting foggy, and then like misty, then foggy, and then it was just flat out fog. And
Right.
then by the time you get to the summit, all of a sudden you're back out in the sunlight again. And really, what we did is elevated through the clouds. And what
Right.
was really cool was as you're at the peak, and there's a restaurant there, a gift shop kind of stuff. It's tourist trap stuff. But you're looking now, you're above cloud level, and all you're seeing are clouds as, surface, the surface of what we call ground. And then off to the north are the other peaks along the way, heading because the mountains are basically moving to the north.
Hmm.
And it was the coolest thing because they all look like islands on the sea of white. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So the elevation does bring some really interesting dynamic as well, because you
Right.
can be above the clouds and have a view.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily anything you want to see below. But it's fascinating.
Well, and if you think about Native Americans who may have explored there before we understood science, and they break through this cloud and that's what they see, you've now traveled to another
The,
world.
the place, yeah, absolutely. I
So
can
that,
understand that.
it's interesting. Our grounded scientific world, yeah, there, you can't, if you ground yourself in the scientific world, you can't say that there's this paranormal. But if you open your
Right,
mind to what might be out there, there's it's just amazing.
absolutely. Well, there's people who live along the mountain, and there are anecdotal tales from them of these they're seeing fields of lights.
Mhm.
And to me, it would be like orbs, illumination of vapor in the air, things like that. We project light to see things. It's dark out, so that. But many who live there because they want to be connected to the mountain. They feel connected to the mountain, and
Mhm.
these are signs that the mountain is connecting that to them as well.
Right.
These experiences, and I'm not one to say you didn't experience something. It's not my place.
No.
There's a lot of tales of things like that, or lights in the sky and things like that are just they're connected signs to them that
Mhm.
they're there and they're part of the
Right.
culture of that region.
Everybody's spiritualism is their own, and
Mhm.
that's how they connect with whatever higher being or higher power, and you can't take that away from them.
No, not at
It's
all. Don't even
like
try.
when we go in a paranormal investigation, you and I may be sitting in the same room watching the same things, and you may see an apparition and I won't.
Right.
And
It's
it's
meant for you to see, you or
exactly,
experience, whoever you are.
and
Absolutely.
that's your connection to whatever happened there, be
Mhm.
it spiritual, be it scientific, however you want to describe it, and you can't take that away from people.
I
So,
agree. And it's not, again, I keep saying it's not our place, but, we will try to figure out the things that could be physical
mhm,
before we commit to saying it's paranormal or the normal things that be paranormal. But,
mhm,
that the first thing is, okay, cool. That's great. Like it's not like no, no, no. That's not
right,
the first. It'll never be the first thing out of my mouth is no, no, no. It wasn't that. It's like, okay, tell me all about it. I
right.
want to hear
Give
and
me
watch fresh, and in the moment, I want to hear that experience, or at least get as much of it as I can
right,
to understand it before
and
we
I
try to
think
figure out
that's
what it could
what
be.
we lack as a team is we don't document those things enough,
Yeah, that's fair. That's
um,
very fair.
because, we have people who smell things, but how often do we write that down?
Yeah,
There's just like we need to we as a team need to get better about that, and we as individual investigators, I know I do. So,
I won't argue that at all. You're right.
so
Yep,
because that's part of the experience.
it is. And here we go though, and this is kind of what was alluded to throughout. The research is that, okay, all of these things could be real, these experiences people are having, but most are anecdotal because they don't come with good documentation. So that's the point,
Mhm.
and that's good. That's good investigative tactic, right? We should be, as much as we carry recorders and we carry cameras. We have a whole bag full of equipment of different things that do stuff. The actual back end, if it didn't make it to audio, did it really happen? Yeah, it's something still happened. It's just we didn't capture it. And that the fail then is to not document it at all. And
Yeah.
you're right. And I'm agreeing. I'm going a long way to say I agree with you. But that's also the tipping point of challenge is how do you get to the place where you can capture it and keep it the continuity of what it was intact.
Well, and I think sometimes that's running our recorders a little bit longer.
Okay.
Like, we run our recorders, we get to the end of the investigation, we stop our recorders and say, okay, what happened? We don't record that discussion.
Yeah, it's fair.
And it's like, just that's just coming to me. It's like, why aren't we doing that more often? Just, you know, even if we videotape what we've talked about and experienced, it's just something to throw out there. So,
Something more. Yeah.
but Jamie, this was all new to me, so I really appreciate you taking the time to dig into this. And I know you said this was a last minute. Oh, I got to get this done. Well, you did dig into it.
Well, that's why I was up so late 'cause there's so much.
Uh-huh.
Um, I want to share something else though, and this is not Mount Shasta. I was at work today, and as you get a minute, you scroll right through things, and I came across an article of a place called Lovelock Cave in Nevada. And the reason it was interesting to me is that the cave was this is folklore,
Hmm.
and it goes to having a folklore tale of it being inhabited by red-headed giants. Okay. As
Okay.
a ginger, I got intrigued, right?
Hmm.
Not a tall person overly, but so I read through this article, and really what it became was that it was a native tribe. They inhabited this cave, and it was their home. And in their passing, without official proper burial tactics and techniques, the oxidation of the material of the cave changed the pigment of their hair. The follicles turned to reddish or some rusted tint
Right.
instead of natural black or brown. And so science figured this out. But there was a comment from that strikes me as belonging here as well. And it says, and I quote it: myth often fills the gaps where science is incomplete."
Yep.
And that rang a big bell for me, and for this and for so many other things that we deal with, that we take the story is the filler. It's the icing even on the cake. Because cake is porous at times, right?
Hmm.
So we're hiding something with it. So we're filling it, we're covering it with the story.
Hmm.
And another comment was made in the article. People are drawn to the idea that there are secrets waiting to be discovered. And that's why I can say for myself, that's why I investigate.
Hmm.
I go to the field because I want to find things. There are secrets or mysteries either
Right.
way. that are still to be found.
Yeah, I think mysteries is a better word because it's not like we're trying to find something that we're not supposed to find because that's
Yeah,
where I look at a secret. But I
okay,
think mystery is a better word. I
I'll
like
take it either way.
yeah. So um, Bert did say here it looks like a beautiful place, but the only way I'm going up there is by helicopter.
Well, it's such a big place, Bert, and that you don't have to go all the way up. You can get really, really close, and there's a lot of nature there with trails, and there's campgrounds. There's all kinds of recreational use.
Right.
There is wildlife, and obviously Bigfoot might be part of that, but the reality is there's bears, there's wolves,
Hmm.
mountain lions, coyotes. There's all kinds of things, So they obviously recommend you stay in the public places or in the public access places. Don't go drifting too far afield. Let people like we always say to everybody, let people know where you're going. So
Right.
that way we know where you are. Nobody
So,
wants to have 127 hours happen to them. Um,
right.
I
Jamie,
mean, maybe they do. I don't know. The
you
adventure
didn't
part sounds great, but
you
uh,
didn't tell us where we can get tickets to Telos or what operating hours there are or anything like that.
yeah, I'm not going to. Uh, so all of
On your own to find it.
you're on your own. Yeah, yes. And that, but as long as you find, if you can find it by staying on the paths, right, in the public places, I just said. So, I think that to me is, and Google Lumeria. It's a whole thing. There's maps. There's all kinds of stuff you find. Even though it's a lost continent. But the reality is it might exist, and at least some landmass might have existed at some
Mhm.
point. So it's theoretically true, possibly, maybe. I don't know, but
Sounds
the
like an
city.
episode.
This, well, maybe, right. The city of Telos, though, is so factual. Like people believe this. Like it has to be true because there's such an ardent belief in it. And again, you can't change people's minds. It's not our place to.
Right.
But there is like there's two camps really. There's the yes and no's and hardly any maybes. I mean, I guess I'm a maybe, so hardly any, but yeah, I'm the one. But the reality is that until something says no, it might be a yes. So,
Right.
and then, like everything else, things just get fed to the internet and just keeps going and going and going. And there's just such a length of it. And there's so much backstory now over 100 years or so of belief that it's there.
Right.
I think by now we'd figure it out. I really do. But
Maybe,
maybe.
maybe not.
But
Like,
again, Bigfoot might be protecting the entrances. So
well, and I really appreciate that Bigfoot cleans up his scat and doesn't leave it there for us to
he,
find. I
he's
mean,
a, yeah.
maybe that's part of that shifting between universes or dimensions. He doesn't use this dimension for that.
Yeah, he's got a nice spot back in his other area.
Yeah.
Yeah, that well, but that again, Bigfoot is that whole thing where if there was one, where if there has been one, if there have been them all along, where are the corpses,
All
the
right.
remains, things like that? Obviously, I think there are plenty of shows documenting Bigfoot explorations
All right.
out there that they come across things that could be habitats or at least some kind of nesting spaces, things like that. But yet we have yet to come across any physical things other than some random footprints, which I go
Mm.
back to. I want to say it was an Expedition Unknown episode, one of the old Josh Gates shows.
Right.
They were in Tibet looking for the Yeti, and they
Hmm.
came across a footprint in the snow that was massive. And here it is, this huge footprint, but it's also in on the sunny side of a slope. Who knows how old. So as the sunlight has melted the snow around it, the footprint expands. It
Right.
gets bigger. So what could have been a person walking through the area in a boot now becomes Bigfoot because it's 16 inches long and 2 feet wide or whatever this thing was. It's massive. So
Right.
you know those kind of things definitely have a place. I always think of that going back to this, like, where is this capture happening at? Is it in soft soils around a lot of water? Generally that's where soil's softest anyway. It's moist ground,
Right.
wet ground. So, theoretically it could have just been a smudge that
Hmm.
caused this to happen. I,
Hmm.
I ain't saying no,
Right.
but
Right.
I think we should have found something by now. Although, we joke about this a lot too on our side, but Bigfoot is the all-time hide and seek champion at this point.
This is
So
true. I mean, and Bert's coming here. There's so much of this earth that hasn't been explored.
True story. Yes,
So,
sir.
like, and you're talking about, you said how rural and out there this mountain is. We haven't looked at every inch of it.
Sure. It's
There's
true.
no way possible. And Heather points out that my son is a Boy Scout, and they take their shovels and bury theirs. Talking about the scat, maybe Bigfoot does too. I mean, maybe
Maybe.
they maybe they are so culturally, like, maybe they are an advanced culture that we're just assuming isn't, and
Yep.
they're smarter than we are, and they're good at not being seen, and it's a possibility. So,
Hey, if he's got to step over to another dimension to use the restroom, I understand.
yeah.
It's cool.
Um, if you want to have a good discussion about something like this, Jamie, I'm going to segue here, not trying to cut you off.
Yeah, of
This
course.
weekend is the Alpatwitch Festival
Yes, it is.
in
Wrightsville.
Wrightsville. It's not in
Wrightsville, PA.
Columbia this year. It's in
Yep. River
Wrightsville.
Park or Wrightsville. Correct.
So, plenty of people out there to talk about this with. So,
Absolutely. And for those who don't know, the Albatwitch is a variant, if you will, of Bigfoot here in South Central Pennsylvania. He is a small fellow, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. And Albatwitch is PA Dutch for apple snitcher, which is a part of his backstory is that he steals apples and occasionally throws them at people who come too close. So, but he was seen here in a local area called Chickies Rock, and um, physically seen by a few people by account. And it's led into, I think, year 11 or so, maybe 12 of the Albatwitch Festival, which is a day of fun and commiseration around him and other cryptids and paranormal stuff in the area. So if you're in anywhere near Wrightsville, Pennsylvania on Saturday between like 10 and 5, I think it is, the River
something
Park,
yeah,
stop by.
stop
Food,
by,
fun, conversation, cool people.
and there's plenty of vendors there.
Yep.
Heather's daughter Kaya will be there. Go say hello. Another great investigator.
Yep.
Definitely worth saying hi to and talking to and checking out the jewelry that she makes. So
Absolutely.
So cool. I didn't mean to
You're good.
that, but it was just a good segue. So I thought we'd go there.
Yep. So I've said a lot of stuff over the last hour, and I can't believe we've been here for an hour already. So to kind of wrap up, where are you with this? I think I've said too much, maybe.
Well, I've
talking.
No, I did say, it's one of those, like, if you want to go with the scientific side, no, it's not paranormal.
Okay.
But I don't like to go with the scientific side. I like to go with the personal, like, it's spiritual. And that is, the Native Americans were a spiritual people. There's, we have developed too far into everything's based on science. And we have to let that spiritual side come through and guide us sometimes. And I want to say that, maybe there is something there. We're right now, we've got this 3-eye atlas thing coming towards us that scientists have been saying it's a comet for so long. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it is another race coming to check things out. I don't know. There's so many possibilities out there. We can't just snap our fingers and say, "Oh no, science says it's not."
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so that's where
maybe it's Lemurians coming home.
Maybe it is. I mean, it's hard to say, but I want to keep the door open.
Sure. Well, as a good investigator, I think you have to keep all the options open. Before, if you say it's only this, you just automatically shut the door to everything else, and therefore, your mind is closed. And I firmly believe that would be an injustice to the opportunities that you have and the engagement that you could create by not doing so.
Right.
So
Bird puts it a good way here. We're too modernized for our own good sometimes.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
We look at some of these things that ancient cultures have done that we couldn't replicate to the degree that they did without, fantastic equipment that we have these days. It's like, how, there's an answer out there. We just don't know it.
Sure. Aliens helped them do it. Right.
Yeah, aliens, knowledge. Who
Uh,
there's lots of ideas. So wow.
all right, here we go. Well, I'm in the same boat with you. You know, I really I want to believe there's something going on here. I really do because but again, it comes back to how much are you willing to expand your mind beyond the physical things. Like facts are facts, right? I get it. Okay, we all like data, and I like data. I
Mhm.
am unsensitive. Again, I don't have the sensitivities that you do or anyone else does. You know, in the field, but so I like I like the details. I like the facts, but I also have to have the story. You know that matters, and it's part of the entire narrative of Shasta is about the feel and the connection that you make to nature, and that's good enough for me at this point.
All
You know,
right.
to say okay, something surely could go on because there's so much more that we don't understand than we do in the world and in nature. So I guess we're gonna have to go out there and find out ourselves,
I guess so. Take our EMF detectors and our feelings and see what we come up with, right?
or just maybe sit out in the wild for a while, be
Yeah,
quiet.
there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah,
So,
very cool.
so
All right, sir. Well, we probably should move on.
probably we could go on with this for a while, but we'll talk about what we got coming up.
Yeah.
Um, Episodes next week: Endless Hallways, Secrets of the Winchester Mystery House or the Winchester House. Um, Started to dig into this. We're talking about the wife of the Winchester rifle magnate.
Yep.
So bought a house and just started building and kept building 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at some points,
Yep.
and built, tore things down, built again, and just everything. Some people say she was guided by spirit. Some people say she was crazy. We'll dig into that too next week.
Cool.
Um, then October 21st, we're going to dig in. I'm going to dig into the hauntings of the Virginia Historic Triangle. I might break this into a couple episodes, do one now, do one a little bit later down the road, because we were talking about three distinct areas of Virginia: Williamsburg, Jamestown, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. But I have a good book here that has can help me out. So, Yorktown, Jamestown, and Williamsburg. As you know, Jamie, I love to spend as much time as I can in
Yep.
Williamsburg. Some really
Absolutely.
great stories coming out of there. Yes, if you haven't figured out, Emmy is standing next to me.
Ah, there you are. Well, hello. Welcome to the show.
So, anyway, then after that, as Jamie pointed out earlier, episode 125 is going to be Abducted, the Travis Walton UFO encounter. So I'm interested in hearing a little bit about that. November 4th, Tales of Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit. And then November 11th, The Haunted Stronghold, Tales from the Castle of Good Hope. So we've got some interesting episodes coming up. Looking forward to those. Some ones we have pretty much the whole year's laid out at this point, Jamie. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
We
This
got
last I checked, it was, or at least there might be
one
one
opening,
in there.
but
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
figure
figure
that
it out.
out.
I get time.
We do. Investigations coming up. We hinted at this earlier. October 11th, sold out.
Yep, this Saturday.
October 18th, sold out.
Spooky season, man. That's what
It
happens.
is. November 8th, there's tickets available. So if you're interested, get them now because
It
it
will move.
probably will sell out before too long.
Yep.
Because that's on the tail end of spooky season. So, things are still active there. And actually, they could be more active because of the way things happen at Boobies during Halloween, and we're coming off that the week later. You never know.
Fair enough. Yep.
So if you're interested in an investigation with us, check those out. I'm going to talk about this, Jamie, because I know you're looking forward to this.
Yes, this is my Friday night. So, Whispers in the Dark is a production by the Gretna Theater, which is the Chilling World of Urban Legends. So a vignette theater activity session where you're going to go out into the wild woods of Mount Gretna, PA, and come across, I believe, 6 or 7 different urban legend vignettes acted out as you progress through the woods, coming back around again, hopefully back out to civilization someday,
I hope
maybe the
we make
same
it there.
day. But you're really exciting. We did an episode a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2, 3 weeks ago now, with Megan Baum, the managing director. So we're really looking forward to get. I'm looking forward to this Friday. You're doing next Friday, I think,
That's
or
correct.
next weekend at least. So,
Bert's
um,
doing this Friday. He
yep,
jumped in on your date night.
he did. Okay, no problem. Uh, more the merrier. But it is going to be one of those things where our imaginations may get the better of us. But I'm always in for a theater experience. So
Hmm.
looking forward to this one and get out and support the arts. So tickets are available at retinatheater.org.
Yeah. And then I think what we've got left after that is just how to get a hold of us. You can find us on jotnixparanormal.com. Our website is up and running. You can email us at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to find all our links to different social media, all those fun things, we have an online catalog of things that you can get. Linktree/paranormal lens. That's linktr.ee/paranormal lens. That'll point you in all our directions, and we'd be happy to talk to you. We love hearing from visitors. We love getting reviews, whether it's an email directly to us through Spotify, through Apple Podcasts, any of those places. Um, share whether we're doing a good job or not. We'd like to know. We're trying to build our following out there. We're slowly but surely. Jamie, you want to tell what happened today?
We hit 5,000 streams. So
Mhm.
yay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. So we're happy about that. And we couldn't do that without everybody who's out there. So we want to say thank you to all our visitors, our viewers, our listeners. We do this for you because we could sit here every week and talk to ourselves. I mean, we do that in investigations, but we do it for you. We like the feedback. We like the interaction. Love it when people join us live and type in the chat. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Any other thoughts here, Jamie?
You've covered everything. So I think we're good. Thank
Wow.
you again. Well, the Echo Chat. Thanks everybody. We are looking forward to the rest of the year to wrap up, and then on through 2026. Let's keep it going.
Mm-hmm. So, well, on that note, I think we can close this out. But I'm going to say, uh, actually, I'm looking for something else here. There. um, as the mist settles over Mount Shasta, its mysteries remain, whispering through legend, lights, and the unknown. Whether you see it as a gateway, a sacred site, or something beyond our understandings, remember, truth often hides where curiosity begins. So until next time, stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night, everybody.